Welcome, gardeners, to Get It Growing, the gardening program of the Lafayette Parish Master Gardeners. Today we have with us our local fig enthusiast. Mark is a master gardener and gives our wonderful garden talk presentation on figs, and today he is here to share a mountain of information with you. The first thing I think we're going to talk about, Mark, is the variety of figs that we can grow in Southwest Louisiana.
Yes, figs grow well in South Louisiana, and according to the LSU Ag Center test results, we have a list of about 10 or 12 figs that are recommended for the area. Of course, the end result of raising fruit trees for fig production is what you're going to do with them. If you're going to cook with them or eat them fresh. Some of the varieties have different sizes. Like the Celeste is a small fig. It weighs about 15 grams. That's the most common fig that we have. It's a purple skin fig, and you can do just pretty much anything with it. The larger the fig is, the harder it is to can in the little candied variety. So you're going to have to cut those up and cook them down and make a fig spread if you're going to cook them down into a preserve.
What are the criteria? You mentioned that this little booklet gives recommended figs. Yes. So they're going on disease resistance?
Yes, the LSU Ag Center many years ago determined the varieties according to the cold hardiness for Louisiana, north or south, and drought resistance, disease resistance, the firmness of the fruit, whether or not it has a closed eye or an open eye. Some of these fruits will spoil readily if the eye opens up to the insects. So that's not a recommended variety. Like this variety here is a green fig. It's got quite a bit of an open eye, and it sours readily because the insects, it's open to the environment. Whereas the improved Celeste has a closed eye, and nothing can get in there, and it's going to ripen to its fullest before it spoils. So that's one of the several of the criteria that they use, and also the selection of figs that are available through Louisiana nurseries is they have green skin or purple skin. Now the purple skin varieties cook well, and they're always good to eat fresh. The green skin varieties have to pretty much be peeled whole so that you get all the green skin off to cook them, because they will not cook down as readily as the purple skins.
Yes,
so they're good for eating fresh. Yeah. Very, very good for eating fresh. We have several varieties: the LSU Purple, LSU Gold, the LSU Improved Celeste, which is the O'Rourke, and that's the fig we showed you earlier. This is an up-and-coming favorite for a lot of people because it produces fruit readily month after month up until December. So it has multiple crops, and it's a larger fruit than the regular Celeste.
And it has the closed eye.
And closed eye.
Which means it's not going to sour.
Right. And then we have the Champagne, which is a new variety, and the Alma, and some of these are in between, the green and the yellow varieties to the purple varieties. A very, very wide selection of fruit types and sweetnesses.
And these should be available at local
nurseries.
And we're going to talk a little bit later, or you can, talk a neighbor into sharing some cuttings with you. Now, what variety was this again?
This is an unnamed variety. It's just a Mediterranean type, and it's not recommended because of the split eye characteristics, and the fruit sours on the tree before you can ripen it.
And different people have favorite varieties. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot is what you're going to be doing with the fig,
right,
and your personal taste
preference. Some of the characteristic of the fig is that if it gets too much water, it splits the eye. So in a wet year, that would not be a recommended variety, but in a dry year, with not a lot of water, the eye stays closed. It's a perfect fig for the home garden.
And has a very sweet taste.
It's just not recommended because it didn't meet the criteria of 3 consecutive years of testing that gave it the characteristics of consistent resistance to disease or split eye or cold.
Now, tell us a little bit, have we covered everything on
I
the
think
varieties?
so, on the varieties.
And we'll talk a little bit now about growing the figs once you get them home.
Yes, when you get it, this tree came from a local nursery. It's got a tag. I trust the nursery, so I'm pretty much 100% sure this is a Celeste fig. This is the fig that I want to plant in my yard. So I would plant this tree in a well aired out location in the yard with a lot of sun. Full sun is always best. And then I would probably prune it back because it's too tall. And if I did that, just to show how you would prune a tree like this, I would put this in the ground and I would count a couple of nodes of buds that are going to sprout, maybe three sprouts, and then I would cut the tree above that final sprout. And then this tree is going to branch out. These 3 buds are going to branch out and provide 3 times the fruit. All of the fruit on a fig is produced in the current year's growth. So when you cut it, it sends out these multiple shoots, and each one of those shoots is going to have fruit. So you can increase your production by pruning.
And you're not hurting the tree by doing this.
Oh,
I
no.
can tell you, people at home, when you went, we're going, oh! But it does. It does. These are young trees. They need to get established, and you're actually helping the tree when you do this.
I would also cut any other long branches out too. Encourage the lateral branches to grow out and make more of a bush of leaves than a single stalk, because the more branching you have, the more fruit you're going to have potential. If all the other aspects are met, like watering, mulching, sunlight.
And your objective, you can actually see an example of this at our demo garden where Mark has been pruning a little fig tree. If you need to see the end results, pass by our demo garden at our Nelson Center. The objective is to get as Mark said, a tree that grows horizontally instead of vertically, so you're actually able to reach the fruit on the tree without scaling a 12-foot
Right.
a 12-foot ladder.
Right.
You know, it's easy to do.
And in a home garden environment, you can easily prune and keep the fruit. It's not like you're selling these fruit for commercial use. You don't have to have 25 gallons of fruit on this tree. The shorter it is and the easier to pick, the safer it is for you, the better the tree is going to survive because it's not overweighted. And a lot of times you see these trees that are growing from the multiple trunks. They're huge. And then after a hurricane, they just split open. And they're going to survive, but they're not root strong. It's like a very shallow root system, and they're very easily breakable.
Yeah, so you'll notice most of the trees that you purchase from a nursery are going to be the single stem.
Right.
For that reason.
Right. And it gets it off the ground and a lot of airflow through the branches, because the only major problem with the figs as far as disease is the rust or mold fungus that grow on these leaves and cause the leaves to defoliate. If you can allow more airflow through the branches, then early morning, the sun hits the tree, the air is moving, the tree dries off really early in the day, and it prevents that mold or fungus from growing.
And this tree will vigorously recover from in what, 2 to 3 months, it's going to be out to here.
Yes. Now, talking about the requirements, after you get this tree planted in the ground, you want to mulch it about 2 to 4 inches so that you can conserve the water around its root system. And fruit trees need a lot of water, otherwise their fruit are going to drop off. Any of you that may be having problems with fruits drying off and falling off your trees, it's number one cause is because it's not getting enough water. They should get 1 inch of rainfall per week. If you're not getting 1 inch of rainfall, then you should water it. 1 inch of water around the 6-foot diameter of the base of the tree is 15 gallons. So that just gives you an idea of how much water you need to get the optimum amount of fruit production from the tree.
And you might want to, I know many people put a hose out to their tree and let it you know, run slowly so that it drips slowly so that the water doesn't cascade off. If you're doing that, and you're like me, you might want to put one of the little egg-like timers on your hose so you don't leave the hose running all night long.
Yeah.
When it gets hot, you know that the fig tree needs water, you go out there, you're going to come back in an hour or so and turn the hose off, and many times that just does not happen.
One of the other questions we get a lot of is when to prune the tree. I like to prune the tree in August after the fruit production so that the branches, the tree has time to shoot out new branches up to about 1 foot in length so that they can harden up before winter, and then the next year the tree is short, it's got a lot more branches, it's ready to go. When you prune in the spring, it just encourages the lateral shoots on these branches to grow, and sometimes they'll grow 6-8 feet long, and that's not a favorable condition for fruit production. It's good for growing vegetatively, but not for fruit production.
Which is our aim.
This is the aim, and get the tree shaped down in the summer so that it can withstand the coldness of the winter and then be ready to sprout new branches in the spring.
How are you going to fertilize the tree?
Fertilization, figs are very low maintenance fruit. They're easy to grow. They do not require fertilizer if you have a lot of mulch and a lot of organic matter that's feeding the roots. But you should always start with a soil test from the LSU Ag Center. They're going to have a recommendation according to your soil test. Generally, if the tree is growing 1 foot to 1.5 foot per year, then you don't need any fertilizer at all. That just keeps the tree a lot shorter and growing well. If it's not growing that much, then it's a pound of 888 fertilizer per year of the age of tree, up to 10 pounds. So you're not talking about a lot of fertilizer, and a 888 would give you long-term fertilization effect. But always go by the recommendation of the LSU Ag Center's soil sample, and don't try to grow this tree too tall and too high.
Well, generally with fruit, slow is good.
Yes.
Especially with a young tree.
Yes.
We're going to also use, or you can use, these prunings to propagate and create new trees for yourself and your neighbors.
Yes, if you see what we did here, normally you would make cuttings in the dormant season. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of leaves here, but to make a cutting, which I have here some examples of some cuttings we did a month ago, you would try to find on the tree, on this branch, the joint of where the last year's growth and this year's growth meet. That's the place, the location on the branch that's the easiest to get roots to start. So you can see the difference in the wood here. This is a harder wood, this is a softer wood. So you want to bury this joint in a medium, either sand or peat moss and perlite. Stay away from the highly nutrient soils because it's just going to encourage the roots, the leaves to grow before the roots are established. So on this joint right here, I would stick this in the ground. I would come up here to the last one, and I would cut that, and I would cut this. And this is what I would use to start a cutting. Oh. So this right here would be put into the ground, into a medium, and left for about 60 days. The roots are not going to develop right away. You're going to see a lot of green. The bud is going to start sprouting, and that's going to take some time to send out new roots on these nodes on this cutting. I have an example here of one that we did about a month ago, and you can see the roots starting to develop. This is a very small branch. This is easy to root. Figs are very easy to root with cuttings. You just have to keep them moist and watered pretty much daily or every other day. And you keep the the pot in the shade. If you put it in the sun, the leaves are going to dry out. There's not going to have enough roots there to pull up any extra moisture to survive. So you want to keep it in the shade for at least 2 months. Now these are almost, you can see how much roots have developed on this little branch in just 30 days. I'm not going to repot these for another 30 days. So I can put these in some small pots in a potting soil, and I can actually plant this little tree in September, because in that pot it's going to be rooted and well taken to put in the ground. And you can always keep a small tree from freezing. Plus you get the added advantage of starting a root system early in the fall, in the winter, instead of waiting to plant this tree in the spring.
Right. Now, and it is. A container plant, you theoretically can plant any time of year.
Right.
But you're also, you know, if you're planting a tree, you're also facing our brutal summers. So you can do it. But your best time of year for generally anything except citrus is to plant in the fall.
Right. So a lot of information available through the LSU Ag Center. All of the brochures that I have here talks about home orchards, not just figs, but general recommendations for growing fruits in orchards, home orchards. Louisiana fig varieties. We have a detailed list of all of the qualities of the fruit and the information on growing them specifically. All available online. I'm pretty sure all these documents are available online.
They are.
What's not online is additional information that may include some recipes or recent brochures that we made for the Master Gardeners demonstration beds. So general public is welcome to go out there and see the demonstration on that fig tree. We give garden talks every month. While you're there, pick up a brochure, learn more about how to adequately care for fruit trees.
And we briefly, let's go back to, we briefly touched on problems of fig trees. But really, most of the trees in a home setting, it's not feasible to treat any problem that you're going to come up with.
No.
All you do is just
There
plant care.
are products available, you know, at the local feed stores, like rust in figs is treated with copper fungicides. So those products are readily available. But anytime you start using that, you got to watch what you're going to spray next to. You got to follow the label direction. Fig trees are very low maintenance, and even if they do get the rust, the trees fall off, it's not going to kill the tree.
Right. And this is what we're going to say. You've seen those years that
Yes.
every leaf drops off of the fig tree. It is not going to kill the tree.
That's why you put your figs in the preserves and you keep them for years, so that when you get a bad year, you're not out of figs.
And now we're coming to the fun part of the
Yeah,
program,
the
which
eating
is
part.
talking about what you're going to do with this wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful fruit once it comes into production.
A lot of people don't know that there's so many varieties available. I know in Louisiana you can grow about 62 varieties. There's only 8 or 10 that's recommended, but it always helps if you can find somebody that has a fruit that you may want to plant in your yard. Or at the local nurseries, the good nurserymen are going to know the qualities of the fruit. You're not going to have to rely on this tag just to say that this is the name of this variety. A lot of things come into play when you're cooking and canning fig preserves, because don't you know, I've cooked a batch of these green figs before and the jars exploded on me because they don't cook. You got to peel them. So there's a lot to know. LSU Ag Center has a lot of information about cooking, canning of the fruits. These jars, some of these jars are 6 years old, and they're still good. They don't. Canning is a wonderful way to pack all your excess fruit, even from a single tree.
Right. Now, and you also, have you ever frozen them?
I have frozen the little figs, the Celeste figs for canning. I freeze them whole. You don't wash them. You just stick them in the freezer in Ziploc bags, and you can take them out, throw them out in the sink water, put them in the pot, and add your sugar and cook them down.
Right.
You can't tell that they were not fresh.
No, and there's also microwave recipes for your figs. There are slow cooker recipes for your figs. There are recipes, well, actually, you're just cooking it the same way, and instead of using your jars and processing, you zap it into a little plastic container, and you can freeze those, and same thing. You cannot tell that they were not preserved.
There is a technique that you have to be knowledgeable of the amount of sugar,
Right.
so that it doesn't crystallize on you, and you have yet enough sugar to preserve the product. So a lot to learn about in the canning aspect, but I don't think we have to teach too many people how to eat them. Fresh off the tree.
I was going to say, and if you want to just avoid that whole issue, walk outside and pick them off the tree.
These fruits that I picked last night are an early crop. A lot of the varieties do have an early crop, but the tree has to be in excellent shape and it has to be well managed so that extra nutrients that the tree is trying to push out comes out in the form of a fruit.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk a little bit about nutrients, the nutrient value of figs.
Yes, one 15-gram fig has 30 calories. That's the small variety of a fresh fig. That's the Celeste. Now, a 30-gram variety, you double that. That's 60 grams. The big fruits, 50 grams, you're talking about 100 calories.
But they are just packed with nutrients.
They are packed with, there's no cholesterol, there's no fat, but they have a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients.
And potassium.
And potassium, yes.
For people who are looking for
You
sources of potassium.
You don't have to eat this with sugar.
Now, what are your favorite varieties?
My favorite variety is the Celeste and the improved Celeste. The Celeste because I can can them whole for my wife because that's what she likes to eat. I don't like the whole ones. I prefer mashing them up, cutting them up, making them into a spread, a preserve. That's how I grew up. That's what I want. So the advantage of having an improved Celeste that produces a lot of fruit for a long time of the year, and I'm going to cut them up anyway. I'm not worried about the tininess of the fruit. I want volume.
And, okay, now, tell me again, you said the long production of this, from roughly July through?
June 25th is the target date for improved Celeste. They start producing their main crop. Now, you're going to get fruit for about a week and a half, and then it's going to taper off, and then they're going to send out some more sprouts, and that's going to be about a month. Every month, you're going to get a little flush of fruit up until almost the first frost.
And this variety, if I remember well, too, was nearly lost at LSU.
Yes. I did some work with LSU about 8 years ago, and we brought these varieties back, and they are newly released. There's 3 varieties: the LSU Gold, the LSU Improved Celeste, which is now the O'Rourke, named after the founder of that breed, that variety, and the Champagne and the Tiger. There's 4 of them. So all of these new varieties are back. They've probably been out there, but not well known because they weren't in the nurseries, or they could have been in the nurseries, but a lot of people didn't know much about them. But these varieties are available, and any questions about the quality of the fruit, I'll be glad to answer through Master Gardeners, and just have to call the LSU Ag Center.
And again, all of this information is available from the Ag Center website, a huge wealth of information. We want to take a brief moment and update you on the many gardening activities. This time of year there is something going on every weekend. And this weekend will be the Herb Fest in Sunset. The grand opening of the medicinal garden at Vermilionville is Tuesday, May the 8th at 5:30 p.m. You know that the Master Gardeners were instrumental in helping develop that garden along with the staff of Vermilionville. That will be a wonderful opportunity to get familiar with the medicinal components of plants. The Daylily Festival will be the first weekend of June in Abbeville at the City Center. May the 19th is the next of our series of garden talks, which will be the plant swap. And you can watch for details of that in the paper. If you're not familiar with it, you bring a rooted plant. For trading, informal trading is 9 o'clock. The swap is 10 o'clock. If you have any extra plants, there are always people, gardeners, in new homes who are looking for plants. If you're dividing daylilies, bring them along. We will find a good home for any plant. And any extra plants, any suitable plants, go to our Habitat chairman. Mark, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to eating these figs.
Yes.
You made this?
Yeah, I made that last night.
Whoa. A fun end.
You just stopped like 5 seconds too soon. Pick up the pie and start eating.
Yeah.
You noticed what I went to.
We could have done that. Ooh, yeah.
You did good.
We can eat. We could have ended the show. We can eat.
We gotta make